Hello, and welcome to The View from North Fulton. I am District 3 Commissioner Liz Hausman. Thank you for joining us. My guest on today's show is Georgia House Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones. She is a resident in the Milton area of North Fulton County. We will be talking about the hot topics in the Georgia General Assembly for 2013, the legislative session that begins in January. Speaker Jones will give us an idea about what is expected to be on the legislative agenda, issues related to both Fulton County as well as statewide issues. So stay with us for a very informative program to learn what will happen at the Capitol this upcoming session. We will be right back with our very special guest, Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones. Welcome back to The View from North Fulton. We are now joined by our special guest, Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones. Speaker Jones, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
this
you.
is the second time we've had the pleasure of having you on the show. I hope we'll make this an annual event before the session every year so that we can have a conversation about what you think will happen this year. I know you don't have a crystal ball, and I know you can't control everything. But I think our viewers are very interested in the upcoming session and what they can expect and what you might need from them as far as input goes. So I thought I might just throw out some topics that we've read about in the newspaper. First, I'd like to talk from the statewide level, things that affect all Georgians. One of the things we've read about recently is Medicaid and the hospital provider fee or the bed tax and how that's structured, and I think that that's a big topic for you this year.
It is. So as you know, Medicaid is health care that is paid for through a combination of federal tax dollars and state tax dollars for folks who are low income. And currently, Georgia is about $400 million in the hole. It's not something we can easily control because it's what's called an entitlement. So if you qualify for Medicaid, you are entitled to go to the doctor or the hospital, and the state and federal taxpayers pay for it. Because of the economic downturn, more and more people, more Georgians qualify for Medicaid, and they're utilizing it at a higher rate. And so $400 million, to sort of put it in perspective, we have 10 million folks in Georgia. That would be the equivalent of $40 per resident of Georgia. That's our shortfall. For a family of four, it's a $160 shortfall. Well, we don't want to increase taxes by $140 per family of four. We are limited as to how much we can cut back on how much we spend on Medicaid because of federal law. And so we could look to other areas of the budget to cut, which I'm quite sure we will continue to do. Medicaid today probably accounts for about 15% of the state budget. There's another mechanism, and I use this word mechanism because that is in essence what it is. It's a way to draw down additional federal dollars to help us pay for this program that we're mandated to offer and to pay for indigent health care, which is an issue for us in Fulton County because many indigent, that's people who have no way of paying for it, they are by federal law assured that they can receive health care if they just show up at a hospital. So they show up at Grady, and as Fulton taxpayers, we know that we help contribute to pay for Grady, but Grady will never pay for itself because it has so much indigent health care and Medicaid health care. And this mechanism called a hospital provider fee, some people call it a bed tax, is expiring. For every dollar that we levy on hospitals, the hospitals as a group collectively draw down $2 or $3.
Oh, wow.
And so that is on the table again. If we don't do that, we will have to look at even more cuts at the state level and probably eliminating some loopholes that we have, and so and changing some regulations on hospitals, because we by federal law have to offer this. Now, the other issue that when it comes to Medicaid is the I think what's commonly referred to as Obamacare, the Medicaid expansion. And states, by U.S. Supreme Court decision, could decide that they want to provide Medicaid to even more Georgians, probably about 30% more than we do now. Our governor, and I support this wholeheartedly, has said we cannot afford to do this, even if the federal government, when I say federal government, I mean us as federal taxpayers,
correct.
will pay for the bulk of it, because we can't afford for the burgeoning number of folks that are utilizing Medicaid now, much less expanding it. And so I think that simply solving this fiscal hole that we have now is the best that we can do, and we cannot serve more.
So you'll be spending a lot of time on healthcare issues.
It will be healthcare, and I think long term there's really a policy decision to be made to the degree that states can manage this now in the reality of Obamacare, is how can we deliver healthcare less expensively, more efficiently, and have as good or better outcomes, particularly to the Medicaid population and to indigent.
Well, you mentioned the economic downturn.
Yes.
So is there anything with regards to economic recovery or economic development that you'll be talking about this year?
Well, we had some tax reform last year, which has certainly helped attract some businesses. I'm confident that the governor and the legislature will continue to try to make Georgia more competitive relative to our neighbors and, frankly, our global competitors. One of those we've been working, it started last year, we'll continue to work on, is called Red Tape Watch. And we've asked Georgians to send us their suggestions, and I want to encourage you to encourage our shared constituents to continue to do that. How can the state get out of people's pocketbooks and lives so that they can produce for themselves and have more viability, economic viability, because we know that regulations are job killers in general. Now, we all need, there's certainly a case to be made for some regulation where it protects public health and public safety. But I think we've gone way overboard over time, both nationally and at a state and, frankly, a local level. And so we will be looking at how can we do that.
And how can our constituents communicate on those issues?
They're welcome to email you or to email me at jan.jones@house.ga.gov on any area or aspect, particularly with regard to small businesses. What can we do so that we can reduce the regulatory and frankly the financial burden that government places on them?
And encourage their abilities to grow their businesses.
That's right.
Very good, very good. Well, we've all heard about the Savannah Port widening.
Yes.
That's a great way to boost our local economy. Can you bring our viewers up to date on what's happening there?
Well, it's a very lengthy economic and federal regulatory process. It is moving along. We need another injection of state dollars, bond dollars, so that we can keep the EPA process moving forward until or if we get federal dollars that disappointingly have not come through to date. But I'm expecting the governor to propose another $50 million in bond dollars that I am confident that the legislature will support, so that the project will not be delayed. That will allow the EPA and the different regulatory processes to continue until or if we get those federal dollars.
And the total amount of money that's required?
$700 million was the original number, but it may be larger now.
Wow.
And that's
wow.
to deepen it by several feet so that when the larger ships come through from the Panama Canal, they can come to Savannah, which I believe is the 4th busiest port in the nation.
Right, and I believe that the Savannah area actually approved the T-Splost.
Well, it actually did not, but Savannah did not. But some leading to Savannah did, which will help. But no, unfortunately, Savannah did not. And I say unfortunately, I mean, there are those who I'm mindful that many were opposed to that, and certainly I was not eager to have another tax. But I think what the T-Splost vote showed is that we really need to take existing dollars and spend them better in a more targeted way. You know, instead of just shotgun money across the state, you know, what corridors will lead to economic development for all Georgians? And certainly the port is one, and that's why we will continue to put state dollars so that we can have that deepening, which will create jobs in Fulton as well.
Oh, absolutely.
But additionally, DOT dollars along that corridor, perhaps instead of another lesser, and they're all important, but lesser needed areas would be helpful.
And then real quick, we've only got a minute left.
Yes.
We just completed our elections. Some areas had no problems, and there were problems in some areas. Do you foresee any sort of legislative changes to our election processes?
I do. I think that it highlights that, it is foundational to our type of government that we have free and fair and well-conducted elections, that folks, Georgians, can have confidence in the outcome. And certainly here in Fulton, there were problems and have been for years. This is not new. I recall 5 years ago when the city of Milton was just created, I ordered an absentee ballot and it was wrong. And I realize mistakes happen, but repeated mistakes point to a greater problem, and it is a state's responsibility to make sure that our elections and our elections boards are run well.
Well, you're right. Everything we do is based on our elections and the accuracy and fairness of those elections. So, okay, great. Well, I think we've touched on the statewide issues. In a few minutes, we'll be right back and talk about Fulton County specific issues that we should see in the next session. Welcome back to The View from North Fulton. We'll continue our conversation with our special guest, Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones. So, Ms. Jones, let's talk Fulton County.
Okay.
There are some changes that have occurred due to the recent election with our legislative delegation. Excuse me. Can you tell us what those changes are?
So after redistricting, which always follows the census every 10 years, every state house and state senate seat was reformulated to make sure they were all equal in size. And when that occurred, it changed in some respects the total of who represents Fulton County down at the House or down at the Capitol. And the delegation is defined as any House member or Senate member that represents a portion of Fulton County. I can't remember how many there were before, but starting January 14th in the new term, there will be 25 House members that represent a portion of Fulton County. 13 are Republican and 12 will be Democrat. There will be more representation in North Fulton than previously. And so it does change the dynamics. It will mean that, frankly, North Fulton will have a greater voice in the decisions that will be made regarding Fulton County governance only. And there are some things that, there are many responsibilities that you as a commissioner can do that I, as a state legislator, cannot. But there are also other things that the state legislature defines for Fulton County.
For every county.
And for every county, that's right, that's right. And so we'll be taking a look at, frankly, every aspect that the state legislature has authority over with regard to Fulton County. It's been a long time, and I do think it's time for a fresh look.
Yeah, I think that's a very accurate statement. Right. So some of the things that we know we have to address are our own county commission lines in redistricting. We have not gotten new districts yet. So
before, I guess in 2 years, in 2014, there will be elections again for county commission, and either a county commission or a city, for that matter, can redistrict. Actually, I take that back. The county can propose districts. The legislature has to pass them. And so we received a proposal last year from the county commission that was unacceptable. It packed, frankly, North Fulton and Republican districts by an extra 5%, and it kept the South Fulton and the more Democrat districts as much as by less than 5%, which the courts have thrown out and said violates one man, one vote. And so if we do not find proposed districts that are satisfactory to a majority of the delegation, then we will go ahead and taking care of this obligation of redistricting the county itself. That could result in a change in the number of county commission seats, how they're elected, where they are, but I can assure you it will be fair.
So that's one change to Fulton County government that could be proposed. Are there others that you?
Yes. I have a personal interest in the cost of living in Fulton County. It concerns me greatly that when, as residents, particularly in this economic time, have a hard time affording living in Fulton County. And so I will be personally looking at how can we make Fulton County less expensive to homeowners that live here without shifting a cost on anyone else. So as you know, I have benchmarked and looked at how much Fulton County costs per resident and compared it to every surrounding county. And I cannot find any justification, even taking into account MARTA and Grady and the fact that we have this is the capital city with regard to courts, the court system. Almost every department costs considerably more per capita than, for example, Gwinnett and Cobb County, which are comparable size. So I know I will be looking at that. Other members will be looking at the court system and how can we make that. That is a long-time Fulton County resident. I brought actually some recommendations by it was a court improvement task force,
which I served on,
and you served on,
yes,
and I know you were great help on that, and particularly with regard to the classified system of personnel. It's very expensive and does not allow the courts to decide really in an objective way what employees should be retained or promoted in the way that they should have that kind of freedom.
Well, actually, they're limited in hiring their own employees to begin with, and I think that's really ties their hands because they can't select the employees that they feel would best suit their needs.
Yes. The jury system, jury pool, there are ways to make that more efficient so that residents don't have their time wasted by having various jury pools. So we will be looking at that and some of the authorities as to what their cost and are they in fact, and these are legislatively created authorities.
So, for example, the Grady Hospital Authority?
Yes, the Grady Hospital Authority. I think it's worth a conversation if it's necessary any longer. And I think we need to look at that. It may turn out to simply be an additional expense and another layer that's not necessary.
There's also a look at the MARTA Act, correct?
That's right. Absolutely. There's been some minor changes to the MARTA Act, but MARTA is a very expensive service, and it's one that I think could be made more efficient. And I'd like to also look at the MARTA board, its composition, and is that really the best format for it? The library board is another one that needs a look-see, and so I know various members, and any of the 25 are welcome to do this. Have personal interests in different areas, maybe more experience with it, and they're evaluating them.
Well, before I let you go, the regional transit governance issue came up during the T-SPLOS conversation, and it does have a lot to do with the MARTA Act. What do you see happening there?
I'm not sure, to be perfectly honest. I know that I think what you're referring to is, will there be a regional type of governance for transit?
Correct, especially for at least the counties that already have some sort of transit systems.
Right. It will require their buy-in as well, and there's tepid interest, frankly, because of the model that we have with MARTA, and a fear of joining an expensive model that they expressly chose not to have in their counties. And so it may take, beginning with MARTA, to then gain their interest for that.
Right, right. And then there's the issue in Fulton County that we're almost 90% municipalized these days. What are your thoughts on the future of Fulton County as far as service delivery?
Well, I think the time is long past that Fulton County needs to be out of the business of providing municipal-like services. And so I would hope that over the next couple years that the few remaining residents of Fulton County will begin, and I encourage them to self-determine as to whether they would prefer to self-annex into one of the, I think it's 7 cities that surround South Fulton, the unincorporated area, or if they so desire to create a city as we did in North Fulton, or a combination of the two, which is actually what happened in North Fulton. We had a flurry of self-annexations into existing cities, and we had some new cities. But it is time for Fulton to concentrate on the few county services that it is best designed to provide, and municipal-like services are clearly not in Fulton County's future.
Well, there's so many topics we could discuss. We've barely scratched the surface. Before I let you go, I do want to thank you for bringing Gwinnett Tech to North Fulton.
Yes.
Our viewers may not be aware, but $25 million, I believe, was in the budget for last year to allow a campus in North Fulton County for Gwinnett Tech. Be online, what, in 2 years possibly?
Yes, they're hoping that it'll close at the end of this year. Incredibly important to provide more educational opportunities for young people and for older folks who need to retool and find a new career path. And it should serve between 10 and 12,000 students at full capacity located in North Fulton, and it will be located on Old Milton Parkway.
Yes, great location.
Right next to 400, very accessible. Will offer a wide variety of programs so that folks can get back to work.
Thank you again.
Thank
Pleasure
you.
to have you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service to our county and to our state.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back with my closing comments. I'd like to thank Speaker Jones for her dedication to the welfare of our state and for taking time out of her very busy schedule to visit with us today. As you can see, there are a wide range of issues to be discussed this upcoming legislative session that begins in January. Decisions will be made regarding your state and your county government and ultimately many of these decisions will affect you. So whether it is the state budget, economic development, Medicaid, regional transit, changes to our Fulton County government, or any other topic that we discussed, I hope that you will pay close attention. And if you have some ideas or opinions that you think your elected officials need to know, please take the time to contact one. We are fortunate to have statewide leadership from here in Fulton County, and they need to hear from you. That's my view. What's yours? You can contact me at my District 3 office at 404-612-8213 or reach me via email at liz.houseman@fultoncountyga.gov. Well, that's all my time. Thank you for yours. Again, I'm Commissioner Liz Houseman, and we'll see you next time on The View from North Fulton.